Hello, St. Mark's. It's Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. I'm Matt Wright, and in this weird year, it's tax day of all things. But we're going to put that aside for a little while and talk food with members of the St. Mark's community who like to cook. I like to cook, but if you're like me, you might be running out of inspiration. So we're going to turn to some of our other friends who like to cook and see what they're making to keep things lively and interesting in this strange summer season. So stay tuned for that. But before we go there, we're going to go here and we're going to talk to Pastor Carrie and see what's going on at St. Mark's this week. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Matt.
We're going to do a food edition today, as you know.
Great.
I'm not going to ask you for a recipe. We'll save that for later. But I did want to ask you what part food plays in spirituality. That's a hugely broad question that will take hours to unpack. But, nourishment plays a vital role in a lot of our worship and a lot of the Bible and a lot of the literature. And I know that you're particularly attuned to the quality and sort of the spiritual qualities of food. Mm-hmm. Now, I really don't have a question.
That's okay. I think that, so St. Mark's is famous, not that we're the only church, like this, but we are especially famous historically for being food-centric.
Oh, yeah.
I've never served in a church where you could get 3 square meals on a Sunday by 12:30 if you were a clergy person.
Right.
And hanging out all morning. So we're not able to do any of that right now, and I think that this food podcast is going to be a blast to hear. This is another way for us to connect around food as a community. So it's a great idea that you had, and I can't wait to hear what people are cooking and like what they have to say. But there's method in that. It's not just by happenstance that at St. Mark's people want to sit around a table for a long time and eat good food. It has really shaped our community to spend leisurely mornings on Sundays and at other times too, eating together.
Yeah.
The kind of conversation that happens around a table with food, is spiritual nurture as well as physical nurture. So, yeah. And I think the church has at its heart a meal, right? The Eucharist. Again, something we're not able to do together right now, but we're formed by that feast that we share with each other. And we'll get back to it one day. But if you go back to Scripture, I think it's sort of rooted in this idea, not just Christian, but our Jewish roots too. We're people of hospitality. At the heart of what it means to be God's people is to welcome and feed each other. And that's one of the basic commandments and tenets of Judeo-Christian religion is sit down together and eat together. And healing happens around a table. People who are estranged sit down together and healing can happen. Relationships form. People get all kinds of food when you do that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something we're missing. We're really missing. But I'm also noticing how we are feeding each other in other ways right now. Actually, physically as well. We've talked about that here, but people are taking food to one another safely, grocery shopping for each other.
That's right.
We haven't stopped caring about the community that happens around food and tending to one another in that way. So that's heartening to me. We'll just keep on keeping on until we can do it in real life together.
Well, get out your pencil.
Okay.
Because we've got 5 St. Mark's members who are going to share their thoughts about summer cooking, summer recipes. And
outstanding.
I've had a preview, so I know what's coming, but it's going to be really good. And actually, the recipes will be on a PDF that we'll make available.
Fabulous.
So people can actually cook. If they hear something they like, they can do that.
That's so great.
All right. So here we go. Let's listen and see what happens next. Talk to you next week.
See you, Matt.
Well, here it is, the middle of summer, and all the things that we're used to doing, we can't really do. We can't have a lot of people over for backyard cookouts. We can't go to restaurants. Our options are limited, but we can cook. Most of us have been cooking nonstop for the last few months, and if you're like me, you might be running out of inspiration. So I thought, what if I call up some of our St. Mark's friends and see what they're cooking that I hadn't thought of, and maybe you hadn't thought of either. So we're going to pick up the phone right now. We're going to dial up, and who is on the line but Al Grindon? Al, are you home right now?
Mm-hmm. Nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. And you, I know you're known for your skill on the barbecue and the smoker and behind the stove. And what are you cooking these days? And how are you keeping it from becoming monotonous?
I'm cooking a lot of the same things I usually cook. I guess one way it's not monotonous is that now there are 4 adult cooks in the house. And so everybody takes a turn. So we have a little variety of that way. The other day, Lucy made a beautiful Indonesian and Indian dal, which was fantastic. But, with all the cooks, we mix it up.
Well, you were telling me on an email you had something to offer about your misadventures on the charcoal grill, but I've never eaten a misadventure at your house. What's on the grill? What's a highlight?
Well, the food comes out okay. Sometimes I don't come out unscathed. I had a big misadventure, I guess about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I was making one of my favorite dishes, and I was stupidly barefoot. And somehow when I transferred the hot coals from the little chimney to the grill, one hot coal got out on the ground. And I put my heel right on it, and it was a horrible injury, and I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks. But the food was great.
Well, as long as the food tastes good.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure it was worth it, but I was cooking a recipe from my favorite cookbook author, Marcella Hazan, who wrote a number of Italian cookbooks. And this is it's a grilled like devil's chicken, pollo alla diavolo,
Ooh.
Which is basically a chicken which is butterflied and then pounded. I like the pounding because it really lets out all my aggressive tendencies. And then you take this pounded butterfly chicken and basically marinate it in a solution of olive oil and lemon juice and lots and lots and lots and lots of crushed black pepper. And then, throw it on the grill, and it's great.
Oh, sounds delicious. I've actually had that, and I would vouch for it.
Yeah.
Minus the semi-lethal injury.
Yeah, that was rough. My other favorite thing to do in the summer is to make grilled eggplant, which I could also send you a recipe for. I mean, at this point in my own practice, these aren't really recipes; they're just sort of methods, and I just sort of throw it all together. But I can lay out a semblance of a recipe for you.
All right, thank you for sitting in the kitchen here. I'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Great, stay safe, happy cooking, happy eating.
Marty Farley is here, and we are going to talk about watermelon salad. And I know that you make this. I have the feeling I might have had it once before, Marty, but I haven't had it in a long time. And I'll tell our audience I'm having some of it now as I talk to you, and it's really good. And it's a number of different ingredients. And if I look at it, if I think about it being on paper, I'm not sure I think all these ingredients really work.
Yes, it does. It does. So
tell us what's in a watermelon salad besides watermelon.
Well, there are many different versions of watermelon salad. The one that I use is a Jacques Pepin recipe, and it has feta, mint, Kalamata olives, and the watermelon. And then the dressing is olive oil, lemon juice, a little salt, a little pepper, and Tabasco. That's what gives it the kick.
How long have you been making this?
For about 5 or 6 years. Not a real long time, considering how long I've been cooking. Like today, it's almost 100 degrees out today, and what's more refreshing than watermelon that has a little twist with it?
Now, would you have believed that the olives were an essential part of all this? It seems like that seems like the ingredient that doesn't go.
No, but it's a nice foil. It pairs so well with the feta cheese that's in it, and then it's a nice foil with the mint.
How often do you make this?
During the summer, maybe once a month.
So, or I was wondering if there was always a time, there's always a supply on hand kind of a thing.
Well, it just depends. A lot of times I'll buy a watermelon, and if it's not a nice sweet watermelon, well, I don't even bother, because if you don't have a really sweet, juicy watermelon, then it's really missing out.
Now, what have you learned in 6 years of making this? How have you toyed with it, or do you really make it straight out of the book?
I just make it straight like the recipe, because it's such a keeper.
Where does this turn up in a menu for you guys?
Oh, for sure. Anything that's been grilled or smoked.
Okay.
From outside. So grilled chicken, ribs, a brisket. It's always a great foil. That and some, roasted corn on the cob. It's a great dinner, if you ask me.
Oh, it sounds perfect. Now, how long does it take to put this together?
The recipe says 25 minutes. I think I don't even think it takes that long. The longest amount of time is just either chopping up the watermelon, or I use a watermelon baller. It's just getting the watermelon out, and then after that, it's just mixing up all the ingredients. Okay. So it's very quick.
All right, I'm going back to eating my watermelon salad. Thank you, Marty.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Tom Horner is on the line with us. And Tom, for those of you who don't know, loves to cook. In fact, you're the cook in your family, aren't you?
I am the cook in our family. It's one of the things that Maria loves about me, is that I provide food for her.
What wife wouldn't love that? I have a similar situation here at home, so I feel appreciated.
She does my laundry, so I'll cook her food.
That's right.
And when Nick's not around, she does the dishes. So I think I get the better end of that deal.
Well, so you've always got something new going. I know Maria's been experimenting with sourdough like a lot of people, but you're always on the hunt for something new and interesting to do. And when I talked to you about what you're doing just lately, you mentioned the word cucumbers, and I want you to tell everybody what you've been up to. I
bought a 6-pack of Japanese cucumbers at Armstrong's in early March, mid-March maybe, right after the pandemic hit. And I planted them, and I got a lot of cucumbers. And so I had to figure out what to do with them. And, you can only eat so much salad.
Yeah.
And I've given a bunch away. And then I decided, well, I'll try to make some pickles. So I used the good old internet, and I found an easy way to make some pickle chips. So I take these giant cucumbers, the Japanese cucumbers, which are really good. I've never had them before. And I've got a special little knife that puts the kind of the dill cut on them.
Oh, the crinkle?
So the pickle,
yeah.
The crinkle cut.
Uh-huh.
I've got that, so I use it, and I just slice them up. And I found a recipe that I like, and I actually don't even measure the ingredients now. I do. Actually, I measure the vinegar and the water. That's it.
Okay.
So I 50-50 of vinegar and water, 1 cup of each maybe. And then I boil that, on the stove top. Add in some sugar. I do maybe, I don't know, almost a tablespoon of sugar.
Okay.
And then a little bit more than a teaspoon of salt. Maybe a little bit more, depending on how much you like that.
Okay.
And then I put the dill chips into a glass, just a glass container, an old pasta jar or something like that that we've saved. Something with a lid. I put the pickles in there. I add some Lawry's seasoned pepper. And then you can add whatever else you want to it. They suggested cloves of garlic. I've added dried red peppers, the long kind of thin red peppers.
Sure.
You can add that to it. I haven't tried any other like fresh peppers yet, but I bet that would be really good too.
Okay.
Putting some fresh peppers in there, or maybe even some onions. Maybe I'll try that.
Okay.
And then you boil the liquid, you get everything dissolved, and you pour it over the ingredients in the jar. Let it sit until it's cool. Stick the cap on and put it in the refrigerator. And I'm told that they'll last 3 weeks.
Okay.
And so we haven't had any around that long. So they seem to disappear quicker than 3 weeks.
Than 3 weeks. And do you pour the liquid in when it's still hot? Is that the idea?
Well, right off the stove.
Okay.
So right off the stove. Yep. I pour it in right off the stove and then just let them sit. And next thing you know, you put the lid on, stick them in the refrigerator, and they're good to go. And I'm sure you can mess around with the ingredients to get the different flavors you want. I am not a dill fan.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask you about dilling them, but no.
Yeah, I am not a dill fan, but I'm sure instead of sugar, you could put dill in. I bet there's still sugar in dill pickles.
It must be, yeah.
I'm sure there's still some. I played around a little bit with different types of sweetener. What's the liquid, the agave sweetener or something like that?
Oh, yeah, agave. Yeah, agave syrup.
Yeah, I used that until it was all gone. And now I'm just using, white refined
table sugar,
regular sugar, old sugar.
Okay. Well, you might make a pickle fan out of me yet.
Are you not a pickle fan?
I have not been a pickle fan, although as I get older, I find my palate broadening. So
I've tried 3 different vinegars. I've tried the white vinegar, the apple cider, and the red wine.
What works best?
Well, apple cider vinegar is a little bit sweeter. White is pretty good. I don't think I cared for the red as much. So I think I'll stick to the other 2.
Okay. All right, Tom Horner, thank you.
Yep. We'll see you soon, Matt.
So Mickey Block has come back from Palo Alto, where she's been doing things with her twin sister and her new dog. And I contacted Mickey via email while she was away, and she graciously volunteered to chip in on this segment of the podcast. Mickey, many of you know, is a terrific cook and has fed us graciously and bountifully at coffee hour as long as she's been a part of St. Mark's. And so, Mickey, you were one of the first people I thought of when I thought, oh, let's talk food. Let's talk summer food.
Thank you, Matt.
Podcast. So I'm glad you're here. And you said you have a recipe for cherry tomato salad, which with a good little twist on it, which I think it's a great sort of, people would call it a hack now. It's a great sort of helpful hint for getting the most out of your cherry tomatoes. And I have to say that cherry tomatoes and I have a checkered history.
Now why would you say that, Matt?
When I was a kid, my mother used to serve salads with cherry tomatoes in them, and I just couldn't stand the thought of tomatoes at all, particularly cherry tomatoes. And I got very good at hiding the tomatoes in the centerpiece in our dining room so that my parents would think I had eaten them, and then I would circle back and get them out of the centerpiece.
Well,
anything to avoid eating cherry tomatoes, and I got nailed for it finally and had to sort of toe the line. But I've since come to an understanding with cherry tomatoes, and I love them now. But they do get a little they can be problematic to cook with.
Yes, they really can.
And so you have devised. I don't know if this is your brainstorm or whether you found this from somebody else, but you've devised a way to sort of get the flavor out of cherry tomatoes and keep them from being as watery as they might be in a salad. So describe what's going on.
Okay, so I have 2 volunteer cherry tomato plants that came back from last year. And last year they were fabulous, just fantastically sweet. So I was super happy to see that they came back just on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a billion cherry tomatoes. And the problem with making a cherry tomato salad per se is once you add the cherry tomatoes and the olive oil and whatever the dressing is, it gets so watery because the cherry tomatoes contain so much water in those little tiny seeds and in around on the inside. So here's what works. You take 4 pints of cherry tomatoes, make sure they're as ripe as they can be, cut them in half, you salt them a little bit and a little bit of sugar and leave them to sit for 30 minutes. And then you get out your salad spinner. And
we still have one.
Yes, everybody should have one. And there's something you can do if you don't have a salad spinner. So I'll talk about that a little bit too. But you use the spinner for a good minute. And while you're spinning, you need to stop every once in a while and pull the cherry tomatoes off the sides of the basket and put them down on the bottom again, because otherwise you're really not getting the benefit of the spinning. So when you're finished, you end up with cherry tomatoes that are really just tomatoes. And all that water, there's probably about 3/4 of a cup of water that comes out of the 4 pints. So from there, you can let them sit as long as you'd like. The recipe that I'm using calls for reducing some of the cherry water, but I think I'm not going to do that. I think that's a step that I don't really need to take.
I see. Okay.
So that's just a little too chefy for me. I think I feel the salad just tastes like a good
chefy.
Yeah, too chefy. So really, honestly, you're just going to make a dressing with olive oil and some red wine vinegar and some oregano, and simple as can be, salt and pepper. And then you're going to make it Greeky by adding the feta and the Kalamata olives and some parsley and anything else you'd like to put in there. So
that sounds great.
It's as simple as that. And it will hold up at least 2 or 3 days because that extra moisture has been taken out.
Doesn't get all soggy.
It doesn't get all soggy. And you actually, the dressing is much more vibrant tasting. All that nice, yummy vinegar helps brighten the tomato taste. So it makes a really nice summer salad.
Would you pair this with greens? Would you just do it on its own?
You don't have to put it with greens at all. But if you were, I would probably choose crispy romaine.
Okay. Just keep the texture crunchy. Yeah.
Keep everything together and crunchy, and romaine goes really well with those. I mean, you could choose whatever you like. But I mean, even an iceberg, that's so overlooked these days, iceberg lettuce, but a nice cold iceberg, I'd love it if people would start looking back at that. And, throw in some parsley, throw in some nice, and I like curly parsley actually, instead of Italian.
Okay.
I'm really using that curly parsley a lot more now. I think it's got a nicer flavor, and it holds the dressing better because it's curly and not flat.
More nooks and crannies to get the dressing in.
Exactly. So that's what I would do.
Good. Mickey Block, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. This was worth coming back from Palo Alto for.
On the line with us now is Tracy Cecchinello. She's our senior warden at St. Mark's. She's also a fabulous cook. And Tracy, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell me, we talked about various things you might want to pitch to the congregation for something fun to cook in the summer while we're all here, have a little bit of extra time to cook. And we decided on fish tacos. What do you like about these fish tacos?
What I like about the fish tacos are they're quick, they're tasty, and light.
Good.
Yeah.
Corn tortillas?
Corn tortillas are the best thing.
Okay.
And the best way to make your corn tortillas is to put them directly on the burner for, maybe 30 seconds on each side before you put them in the skillet.
Do you just use a dry skillet, or do you put some oil in the skillet?
I put a little drizzle of olive oil and then put the tortilla in there and let it get a little crispy.
Okay.
On each side. And it depends on how you like it. I like it crispy Lauren likes hers soft. So I may put it where it's not so crispy and just cook it a little quicker.
Well, okay, then let's talk about the main ingredient, the fish.
I use any kind of a dense, sort of thick fish like a halibut or cod. And instead of typically your traditional fish taco, they keep it whole and deep fry it. I like to flake it roughly.
Okay.
Into the skillet of a little olive oil, put a little garlic and slivers of jalapeno.
Ooh, nice.
Pop that in the skillet,
Nice
a little
touch.
salt and pepper to taste.
Okay.
And it gets done really quick, and you throw it into that tortilla. And the coleslaw is super simple. Slice your cabbage, whether it be green or purple or a combination of the two. I sliver shallot in there where you can't see it, but it gives it that nice flavor. Salt and pepper and a little bit of celery seed, a little olive oil, mayo, and a touch of brown sugar.
Nice.
And either vinegar or lemon juice, and toss that all together and put that right in the on top of the fish.
Right on top of the fish. Okay.
Right on top of the fish.
And okay, so now how much fish do you buy to do this? How many people are you feeding?
Well, I feed 3 of us, and so I make about a pound.
About a pound. Okay. And where do you get your fish?
I can get it at Fish King or at a little seafood city in Eagle Rock, a little Filipino fish market.
Okay, got it. And do you serve any sides along with your fish tacos? Any rice or beans or salad?
No, that's it. Because the coleslaw is just the fish tacos, because the coleslaw is your salad.
Well, that sounds great. I actually think I might have to make those this week.
Good. Well, let me know how it works out.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Thank you. Bye, Matt.
That's it for this edition of St. Mark's at Midweek. I'd love to hang out, but I got to get cooking. Thanks to our associate producers, Emily Wright and Lucy Grindon. Another update from St. Mark's next Wednesday and our regular worship podcast on Sunday. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and be good to each other. I'm Matt Wright.